Oh dear, where's George when you need him? He's probably skulking somewhere in Tennessee, isn't he? It's Sunday today, Sunday the 10th of May 2020, and I went to visit a vulnerable person, and said vulnerable person, she's so vulnerable, she'd been out cutting her grass. And what she tells me is this mower suddenly stopped working. Which was a problem because she was halfway through the job, but fortunately she'd got a much older electric lawnmower that she was able to finish the job with. So I got the impression I was being asked to look at it, and yeah, I've looked at it, and then she told me a little bit more. She was mowing the grass, and then she hit a scaffold tube with it, and then it just made funny noises. So I've been volunteered to dig into it, see what we can find. Well, the first thing that we find is that this blade does turn, but for an electric lawnmower it is very, very stiff. Yeah, so I think we're going to have to do a little bit of disassembly and see what we can work out, see if we can't make this thing go a bit better, or go in fact. Yeah, okay, let me find some bits and pieces. Well, I'm never going to be any good at teaching you lot how to do anything. I forgot to point the camera at what I was doing. This whole gubbins is held on with this nut that goes through the blade, through this, well, pulley sort of flywheely sort of job thing, with that bolt undone. And I regret I cheated and used a pair of grips, because I don't seem to have a spanner big enough for that nut. That simply pulled off, but it's to be noted that that is keyed onto that shaft, which, you know, quite important. I don't lose that key, I guess. Is that important? Yeah, I guess it is. What we immediately see is that this spindle just doesn't spin, and I've got a very strong feeling, you know, let's go through the history of this. It was working, it then hit a scaffold tube, it then wasn't working. Now, lawnmowers don't cut scaffold tubes, I know this, so I'm rather guessing that there's something badly out of sorts down in the bearings and somewhere in there. So I guess I better flip it over, take the top off the lawnmower, and then flip it back over, undo these big screws, and see what we can find with the motor. I've got a bad feeling about this job. I've got a feeling we're going to be in failure territory, but you know, we'll see, we'll see. Well, the cover came off easily enough. 5 big Phillips headed screws. Yeah, and that's just a great big chunky motor, isn't it? That would be a lovely motor for driving a miniature train with. If I see one of these for sale with a motor that works, yeah, that's a thought, isn't it? I don't know how powerful this motor is. At the moment, it's it ain't. I put a pair of grips on the top of the armature, and it turns, but you need a lot of force, and it should just turn easily. So I think the next thing to do is to pull the motor out and see what we can do with it. When I put this back together, I might replace that bit of rodent damaged wire. That's what mice do to wire, isn't it? Well, that's the motor out. Now, it will fidget, but it won't turn. Looking at it, it's held together by these 4 very, very simple bolts that pass through this plate, that hold that plate on. I'm sort of thinking that if I undo these, I can take that end off, and then I can take that plate off, and yeah, just see what these bearings are doing. I think that's what's going to work. Find out shortly. Well. In the first instance, I thought it was a Husqvarna, because that's what it says on the case. When we look at this, it says it's a Flymo. Well, you know, these things happen. It was interesting getting that out, but it came out, as you can see, and that was when we discovered the problem. There is a fancy little brush that lives inside that case, and I just get the impression that if you try to cut the top off a scaffold tube with this type of lawnmower, well, that would seem to be part of the problem, wouldn't it? And economically, I think that's game over. If I could find a supplier who can supply brushes for this type of motor, it would still take me a bit of messing about to get it completely apart to refit it, if it's possible. And as we can get complete lawnmowers for nothing here, I've got a feeling that is the sad end of the story. Well, when there's an electrical power cut and you can't be getting on with the things you should be getting on with, there's not a lot else to do. Yes, folks, I was sort of all ready. I'd had breakfast, I'd had my shower, I'd read today's readings, I'd done all the things I needed to do, and then there was a sort of funny noise and nothing. No electric. Anyway, I spoke to one of my neighbours and she's got no electric. It seems that half the town is without electric. So I've rounded up some firewood. I've got the fire starting to brew some tea for me. But in the meantime, well, yeah, that's something to do when there's no electric, isn't it?